Hi, dear listeners. Welcome to this solo episode of A.B.O. I'm Carmen, your dear host. This is the second solo episode I do. The last one was last summer. I think it's an ideal format to take a step back and reflect on what has happened the last 6 months or the last year. In this episode, I will guide you in your end of the year reflections, and I will also share mine. If you have your own business, you might relate. If not, this may trigger reflections or spark ideas for your corporate job or your future business maybe. This episode will be divided into 3 parts. Part 1 will be focused on your 3 main achievements for 2024. I will also share mine. Part 2 will be focused on the lessons you learned and the lessons I learned as well. And then we'll wrap up with part 3 and we'll go through what you envision and what I envision as well for 2025. So let's start now. So your 3 main achievements. Let's start asking a very simple question. If you had to describe the year 2024 with only one word, what would it be? For me, it would be tough, probably. I know it's not something considered as positive, but it's the reality. It's also the reality of entrepreneurship. It was a tough year for me with a high pace. I haven't always channeled my energy and prioritized. So it was difficult from a mental health standpoint. Now, can you think of the 3 main achievements of 2024? I can give you examples if you need to get inspired. Maybe you've signed X amount of new clients, or if you have customers, maybe you've gained a certain percentage of new customers. Maybe you launched a new product or a new service, or you opened a new location, or you moved office, or you registered a new business, or maybe you hired more people in your team, or maybe very simply you maintained your business alive. And this can be a very big achievement. My 3 achievements of the year are: number 1, the rebranding of this podcast from Hong Kong business owners, HKBO, to Asian business owners, A.B.O. Number 2 would be that I started releasing weekly episodes instead of once every 2 weeks. And I started also video episodes. Before it was only audio. So if you're listening to this episode, maybe you can check out on YouTube and just see my face. And achievement number 3, you might know that I also have a digital marketing agency apart from my podcast. And I stopped working with a few of my clients. Why? Because I realized they were draining my energy and I was not giving the best of myself. And I signed new clients with whom it's much more pleasant to work with. Now let's move on to part 2, the 3 lessons we learned. So whether it was a satisfying year or not, I'm sure you went through challenges. So you either had to approach things differently or you had to apply lessons you learned the previous years. But I'm sure there were things to learn from or challenging things. Maybe you came across failures, even if I'm not a fan of this word, because it's more a learning than a failure. By the way, I heard a quote from a philosopher lately who was basically saying that bold failures that required you to be brave, are much more easier to digest than failures not bold and didn't require courage. So what did you learn this year? What challenges or failures have you learned from? Again, here are some examples. Did you have to reconsider your approach to attracting new clients or customers? Did you have to change a process? Did you have to fire someone from your team? Did you have to stop offering a certain product or service? Did you have to reassess how you prioritize the different things you have to do? Let me share the 3 lessons I learned this year. Number 1, my mental health is key. Without a good mental health, there's no podcast, there's no marketing agency, there's no business, there's nothing. So I need to take care of myself and my mental health to be able to function, to have a sustainable business. This year, I went through a range of emotions, quite intense, and I had to think about myself and prioritize self-care. That doesn't mean stop working, but just maybe do things differently and shuffle things around to make sure the pace suits me and my needs, and I don't lose my energy. And the outcome is that it really nurtures my creativity, and I have an overall vision of my business. The lesson number 2 is a lesson that I'm still learning and that I shared in my last solo episode, is to learn to be patient, to give things time. Another quote I read, because I like quotes, that I read on Instagram. Yes, you can learn great things on Instagram sometimes. It was, the day you plant the seed is not the day you eat the fruit. I think this is pretty easy to understand and doesn't need any explanation. But I try to keep this in mind when I launch a project, or, for example, for my podcast. So, okay, the number of listenings is growing, but not as fast as I would like to. I'm so impatient to see this growing more and more. But then I remember, this takes time. And what helped me was that I listened to a lot of other podcasts or other people's stories, podcasters' stories, and they all say that it takes time. When you have a podcast, you see the numbers going a bit up and then down and up, down again. Actually, podcasts take more time to grow than an account on Instagram, for example. So that was a relief to me. The most important thing is to keep releasing new episodes, to be consistent no matter what. And if you keep doing that and you do it well and you enjoy doing it, then over time you will keep growing, and at some point you will hit the target you had in mind. So my lesson here is to be patient and listen to other people's stories, whether it's in my podcast in ABO or any other podcast about business or about mental health. It really helps to listen to other people's struggles. You'll be relieved because you will realize you're not alone. And then lesson number 3, I learned to stay aligned with my core values. And I'm not talking about my company values here. I'm talking about my core values that shape my life, whether it's in my relationship, in my work, in my business, in my family, in my personal life. Any aspects of my life need to be aligned with these core values, so then I can be fulfilled. I can feel that I'm aligned. Because if I'm not, if my core values aren't respected, then this creates an inner conflict and frustration. So from time to time, reassess if what you're doing and who you're with, whether it's personal or professional, reassess if all of this makes sense and if it's aligned with your core values. And now let's wrap up and move on to the last and third part, what you envision for 2025. As it's the end of the year, you will hear many people say, it's the perfect time to revise your business plan, to plan your budget, to set objectives for the new year. This is okay. I mean, this is very useful. But what I would like to share here and to highlight is, let's not put too much pressure on our shoulders. Let's not fall into this trap of the pressure for performance. Earn money, increase your sales, reach your objectives, improve the business growth. This is good, but this can be toxic at some point. Also think about, okay, you want to earn more money or have more or increase the growth of your business? Cool, that's a good thing. But how are you going to do it? And why? What process, what things are you going to put in place? How are you going to approach things? And all these things are going to be aligned with your values or not? Just think about that to make sure you're going, okay, you know the direction you want to go, but make sure you take the right path, because otherwise it will drain your energy and you might not do it over time. So of course, keep up the hard work, map out the year, set yourself a direction, but also think about your strength. Are you sure that what you're doing and your business strategy is centered around your strength, what you're good at? By the way, do you know what your strengths are? Okay, here are 3 questions to help you identify your strength. Question number 1, what's fluent and simple to you? It can be connecting with people and building strong relationships easily, or you can be easily adapting to different situations, or coming up with new ideas and new ways to approach a problem, or maybe you're a very good storyteller and you have the ability to get people involved. I think my strength is to be able to connect deeply with people. Then question number 2, what do clients and customers say that you do differently? So it can be that you are very creative and you see things with a different angle. Maybe you have an excellent customer service and all your clients and customers feel really listened to. Or maybe you provide a personalized offer, personalized product or services, and your clients really appreciate that. Or maybe it's your attention to detail or your ability to analyze situations and pinpoint what's missing, what's wrong. I think what makes me stand out is my creativity. And now, last question, what skills seem obvious to you and impress others? So this can be you're a fast learner, you can learn new languages or new concepts very easily, very quickly. Maybe it's your meticulousness. I'd say for me, it's my ability to learn fast. So for example, I had clients that were impressed because I can learn new tools, new software, or new concepts pretty quickly. For example, for my podcast, I can learn new tools, new editing software, or even for graphic design, I need always to learn new tools, new trends, new things. So now that you have your secret sauce, think about your business strategy. Is it aligned with your strength? Maybe not. So maybe you'll have to reassess things, to shuffle things around, to hire someone else in your team, or maybe hire freelancers if you don't want to have a full-time person, and then you'll have more time to focus on what you're really good at. Or maybe you'll have to redefine your offer, redefine your service, your products, or stop offering a product or launching a new one. Whatever it is, make sure to focus on that, and also to focus your communication on that to really make you stand out. For example, in 2025, I will start offering a wider range of services. With my digital marketing agency, I offer social media marketing. But this coming year, I will also focus on corporate videos and podcast offering, because this is really my strong suit. So let's say you need a series of short videos for social media, or maybe you need a corporate video to talk about a project to the public or for internal purposes, or maybe you want to start a podcast for corporate purposes. Let's say this example, the brand Lululemon, it's a sportswear clothing brand. They realized that their staff was disconnected from the company values. So they decided to start this podcast to work with an agency. And actually the goal was to reconnect with the staff and realign with the values. And they also wanted to get more investment and engagement from the board. So what was the outcome? There was a 95% completion rate per episode, and 75% of the global staff have listened to the podcast, and the feedback was overall very positive. So if you have this in mind to start a podcast for corporate purposes, or maybe just for yourself, just think about it, because podcast is a very good way to connect with your customers, with your audience, and it's a way to be less salesy and really make people understand what your values are. For example, if you are a company centered around sustainability or organic products, this is something that might be useful, a podcast to really showcase how sustainable you are, who you work with, etc. So if you want to find out more or ask me any questions, you have all the detail in the description of the episode. All right, so if you're still listening, thank you very much. And if you're a business owner, I know it's the end of the year. This can be very stressful because you have all the accounting and tax to do, and I hate to do that. So I work with a very good service, It's called Sleek. They do accounting, payroll, tax, all the things you need, all the admin stuff, business registration. And I like it because it's hassle-free. The customer service is very good. It's fast, it's cheap. Honestly, I highly recommend. So if you want to try, and even if you're already a Sleek user, I offer you $500 discount. So all you have to do is to go in the description of the episode, and you have the link and the promo code, so you can either book a call with them or send them an email, and you can either say my name or enter the promo code. I wish you all very happy holiday. On my end, I will take time to relax and put the pressure away to come rested in January. Bye everyone.